Is there a conspiracy in our food consumption? Is it geopolitical? Is the medical system out to get us? Or is there something else at play?
If something kills you like 20 or 30 years earlier, it's still poison. Just because it's slow doesn't mean it's not poisoning you. There's something wrong with this entire medical system. The pharmaceutical business is literally about selling you statins and drugs. And I was on so many drugs trying to solve my problem, and it doesn't work. I think the carnivore diet is very therapeutic for someone who suffers from any ailment that can be cured by basically, making an elimination. What happened was, as the world population started growing very quickly in the early 1900s, and we started struggling with food shortages through World War I and II, they had to send meat to the front lines, and they didn't have the capacity or the finances to really do it, right? So doing was promoting cheaper calorie diets.
I really want to thank you for allowing me to participate in this really event filled movie. And I saw it when I was in Gatlinburg at Meatstock 25, and just it had such power, and it really is a privilege on my side. And I want to share this with our listeners and those watching to get out there and get inspired to see this movie and heal themselves. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this mission of movie Animal and healing our brothers and sisters.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show, and thanks for being a big part of the movie. It was I think your sound bites are some of the best out there, and we really built a lot of the content around what you were saying, and I really appreciate that. My background is I'm South African born, and I grew up in a little small town in South Africa. And I spent my life living in effectively, the heart of Africa. And it's a very meat heavy society. It was, we have this thing called a braai, which is a kind of a barbecue. And it's a cultural thing. Every weekend, people just, you light a fire at your house, people bring their own meat over, and you just like put on the grill and you eat meat. Now, obviously people have bread and, salads and whatever else, but it's primarily a meat heavy culture. And, I'm a tech entrepreneur. So I had a successful tech company in South Africa. I moved to the Silicon Valley in 2008 with another company. I've had a string of good, successful outcomes. I was early seed investor in Solana, the crypto company, crypto blockchain. And I spent a lot of time in the tech world. Now, I made a lot of money and I did really well. But I got really sick in 2018. And that's because when I moved from South Africa, I think, to America, first of all, I gained weight, which is what happens when you move to America and you move off like local food stuff in Europe or Africa, you move into this like ultra processed world. I gained weight. I got some sort of like anxiety issues, and it became the new normal for me living in America. Like that was the price I had to pay. But it got to a tipping point in 2018 where my health just like got obliterated. And I was a really healthy guy. I was like at 1.7% body fat, bench pressing 270 pounds. I was a big, strong guy, and my health just went downhill. And that's over the course of maybe a decade or so. And then I realized, like, the culture in Northern California was very vegan focused. I watched Fork Over Knives or whatever it was back in 2010. I went vegetarian for nearly 2 years. And then I kind of like started eating this Beyond Meat crap for a while. And I just had this like aversion to meat. I mean, I wound up not eating beef for like 20 years in total in my life. But I still ate chicken and fish and lamb and whatever else. But, but I started cutting out, and I would have lamb like once a week, and I would have chicken like pretty much every day as a staple, and then fish. And then I would have a couple of days a week where I didn't have any meat at all. So I had this really, really weird sort of change from being a meat-heavy person growing up in South Africa to being, quasi-vegetarian, vegan-ish. I even tried being vegan for a couple of weeks. That didn't work, but I was vegetarian for quite a while.
Wow.
And as you can imagine, that's when the health problems, started getting worse and worse. And it really is a slow poison. I mean, the people don't appreciate, like, and Anthony Chafee says it very well in one of the clips in the documentary. if something kills you like 20 or 30 years earlier, it's still poison. Just because just because it's slow doesn't mean it's not poisoning you. And I realized that I had been poisoned. I mean, I didn't put two and two together until I started looking into what's causing my gut issues and what's causing a lot of these problems I was having. I was in and out of doctors, and I developed SIBO, and that obviously feeds off carbohydrates and makes it worse. And I went through so many doctors, endoscopy over endoscopy, colonoscopy after colonoscopy. They couldn't find anything. Eventually, I took some um, antibiotics to clear the SIBO and kind of nursed myself back to some health. I actually left California, Northern California. I went down to San Diego, and I went to go see a bunch of doctors and tried more holistic healthcare stuff. But I started eating beef again in 2020, and then we had COVID, and so I started healing a little bit more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And around about 2022-ish, my wife had this like weird immune issue where she had swollen joints and swollen ankles. She couldn't walk some days, and this was over a course of like 2 or 3 months, and we couldn't figure out what was causing it. Right, so we thought it was seafood, we thought it was octopus, we thought it was whatever, and you couldn't figure it out. So we said, okay, let's just do an elimination diet. And at that point, having gone through SIBO and like low FODMAP stuff, which is the whole diet plan for SIBO sufferers, I was like, hey, I'm happy to try this out. And I had friends that told me about carnivore diet. I had one friend who had been on it for a few months, and he built up his echinacea that way. And so I was like, look, worst case, we're just having beef, salt, water for like a month, and eggs, and let's just like detox ourselves. Let's get rid of all the bacteria. And within, I'd say, less than 2 months, she was fully healed. Like, we don't know what it was, but like, her gut was kind of messed up in the beginning. I went through the whole oxalate dumping stage, but I mean, I spent so much time on healthcare the past 7 years. Like, I could get a PhD, I think. Like, I spent a ton of time watching your videos and videos of a lot of the other doctors. And so I started like digging into how to heal, myself and my wife. And I just realized, like, wait, there's something wrong with this entire medical system. The pharmaceutical business is literally about selling you statins and drugs. And I mean, I was on so many drugs trying to solve my problem, and it doesn't work. And it creates like, it creates other problems in your body and side effects. And, so, I just got passionate about like doing this and said, look, and I floated between, carnivore and animal based. And I realized, like, having the yogurts and stuff are kind of good for you. Maybe some kimchi here and there, adding some berries and whatever else and some wine. But the deeper I go into sort of the carnivore world, carnivore is like the best, most pure play diet for me. And yeah, I'll deviate from time to time. I'm not like strict, but I do not eat vegetables anymore. Like, I don't care what you're like. The only vegetable I'll touch is maybe a bit of a potato and maybe a bit of rice or something. Or like, I was in France and I had a bread roll. So like, and this is few and far between. Like 99% of my entire year is eating just meat and eggs and bacon and stuff. And again, I have yogurts and some berries. But I'm more on the. I think the carnivore diet is very therapeutic for someone who suffers from any ailment that can be cured by basically making an elimination. But if you can tolerate other things on the sidelines like berries and stuff, I think it's okay.
Where did you first hear about carnivore? And I'm assuming none of the doctors that you went to for all the suffering ever sort of said, hey, have you looked at this keto or carnivore space at all?
A friend of mine, Matt, told me about it because he did it, and I was always curious about it. And he had a gut issue, which he went on and repopulated his echinacea in the gut. But that's the extent of it. I think no doctor ever recommended it. And by the way, one of the biggest issues I've struggled with is not IBS, but some sort of gut like issue with fiber, right? And the weirdest thing is I tried all the super gut and all these like fiber supplements and psyllium husks and high fiber diets and it just made it worse and worse. And so the doc, like, and for some reason, the medical community just believes that everyone should be eating tons of fiber. Okay. And you should be taking the supplements. And like, for people like me, And again, everyone's different. Some people can tolerate fiber and adapt to it. I struggle with fiber. I am on a like I said, I'll have a potato, or I'll have some rice, or I'll have some bread. It's like, it's like white bread, and it's stuff which is just like as little fiber as possible. I know that like my body can handle a little bit of fiber, but I can't have a lot of it. And so I like literally most of my days and weeks is avoiding fiber like it's the plague. But the medical community believes the opposite. They think, you're going to die if you don't have fiber, and you're going to have lots of issues. And I've had the opposite experience.
Is there a conspiracy in our food consumption? Is it geopolitical? Is the medical system out to get us, or is there something else at play that you've learned on this journey, both in making the movie and healing yourself?
So I think it's an accidental conspiracy. I think what happened was people realized that, and I'll give you my take. It's probably a little bit out there, but I'll give it to you anyway. Like, I think that what happened was, as the world population started growing very quickly in the early 1900s, and we started struggling with food shortages through World War I and II, they had to send meat to the front lines, and they didn't have the capacity or the finances to really do it, right? So what they started doing was promoting cheaper calorie diets and moving us from what is, I think, with a smaller population, a lot more easy to manage and more meat heavy diet to, hey, have your Kellogg's cornflakes, have your grains, cheap calories, and eat your vegetables, because they're trying to save the food for the frontline soldiers. And this is well documented, by the way. There's tons of propaganda that happened during World War II where people were told to eat their vegetables, and the governments were pushing that. But after World War II, what happened was, now you've got inflation, because now it's post-war spending and the governments have to rebuild. And meat was obviously part of the inflation index, right? So it's becoming expensive. But hey, if you have vegetables with your meat, it's going to become cheaper. And those companies, it's big agriculture, Kellogg's, the whatever, these companies benefited from that. So they want to keep the status quo. And so just generation after generation, this just became an accidental conspiracy where now there's so much profit in providing us with low cost and cheap calories, that they want to keep that going. And then the pharmaceutical companies are like, well, hang on, we can go through the whole Ansel Keys and Harvard sugar debate, but like all the stuff is making people sick. Let's blame saturated fats, which I've tested on my own body. Saturated fats, my workouts are way better on saturated fats, because there's just more energy contained in the actual chemical bonds when it releases. Like, there's more energy in a saturated fat. And so they started targeting saturated fats, and they started giving margarine or whatever else, and they started putting on statins. So like, it's just one thing after another that puts people hooked onto this like broken system, and then we get the ultra processed goods. Like, I know we don't have a lot of time to go into all the details of what I think about this, but I think that the simple answer here is, let's go back to basics. And what the movie is about is saying, what is our primal, like, ancestral diet for us as a species, as an animal. Okay. What would we eat if we were out in the wild with none of this infrastructure around us? And we've been very good at creating societies and making things convenient and whatnot. So even like experimenting with fasting or whatever else, like I've dropped 30 pounds since I've been on Carnivore, 35 pounds, and I'm still losing weight on it. I actually noticed that I put on weight when I deviate off Carnivore. So for the most part, I'm just staying strict Carnivore. I do travel a lot, and that is one of the biggest issues I have. Is like, I was, literally stuck on a boat, and like, you eat what you can give them, otherwise, you have to fast. One of the two. So, but I think for the most part, I'm not in a situation where I have any autoimmune condition or issue. But when I went through the detox of just going pure Carnivore, I started getting oxalate dumping, and I was shocked at what was going on. I mean, I'll spare the viewers the gory details, but oxalate dumping, if you go through it, is a horrible thing, but it explains to you how many toxins are in your body. So look, and let's take a step back on the movie. So we went through this process. We realized that the carnivore diet is a proper human diet for the most part, and I think that, or at least we should be very meat heavy in our diets. And I felt that, well, why isn't someone made a proper documentary about this? Why isn't someone spreading the news? And the answer is that no one's got the incentive really to do this. I mean, you go, well, the meat companies do. Well, not really, because a lot of the meat companies are, the way they're raising the cattle is horrendous. It's like grain-fed stuff. When you feed grains to cows, their meat becomes full of omega-6, which is highly inflammatory. And then they sell the meat to McDonald's. And guess what? McDonald's is going to be really pissed if they tell people if they start funding documentaries about eat just meat, no bun, no lettuce, no tomato, no onions. And so the meat industry can't really support this because their biggest customers sell a lot of refined carbs and grains, whether it's the pizza company or the burger companies. So no one's doing this. No one's promoting it. And then the vegan companies, like the Beyond Meats and whatever else, Beyond Burgers and Impossible Foods guys, they've got an incentive to keep everyone vegan. So they'll fund those documentaries, and those are the things that you're seeing on Netflix. And then Netflix is based out in Los Gatos, Northern California. So it's like vegan mecca, right? So they're not going to be putting on any content for their viewers to not be vegans. That's why I got sick, because I was watching the crap that was on Netflix, and I'm going, this is junk, and it's biased. So to answer the question, I guess I made a lot of money in tech, and I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to go and make a documentary, and I don't care about making money out of this documentary. So it's a high quality production. I'm putting it out there. We're doing worldwide distribution in digital and in select theaters on 20th of June. And so anyone around the world can get it. And it's just pay-per-view, and we'll see how it goes. We're not selling it to any of the distributors right now. Maybe we'll sell it at a later point. But I just, I wanted to put something out where I don't have I'm not a special interest group. I'm a tech guy who healed myself using the carnivore diet, and I answer to nobody. I have no one's gonna boycott. I'm not gonna lose money if someone gets pissed off because I put this documentary out. So that was my thing. Like, I think someone needed to put out an independent film that can explain the facts. And I'm not even in the film, and I did it for a reason. Actually, this is not. It's not about my story. This is pretty much everyone in the film is a medical doctor, right? And so it's hear the facts from people who in some way have been suppressed by either the media or the accidental conspiracy that's going on right now, whatever. Let's get this mainstream. And people in the carnivore community, if you have friends who are suffering, and by the way, this movie I've shown at screenings to some close friends who have now abandoned veganism and vegetarianism and started eating meat again, because for me that's a win. Where my friends who have been like anti-meat for years, remember I lived in California for nearly 20 years. My friends are anti-meat. They're now switching over and saying, you know what? I think Vinny's right about this. I think there is something to this.
It is amazing if you think about it. Really, no one lost anything by taking fat out of our diets. Because those that sold meat, I mean, I guess there is some money in the fat going for tallow, lard, or soaps, and even fueling in the energy and fuel industry a little bit. And lean meat, people are eating it. Obviously beef, which I think is probably the best thing to eat, is the thing we're still touting in our medical community, that it shouldn't be consumed frequently, which it probably is the worst advice we've ever been teaching.
100% agree with you.
Patients, which we were taught. And if you look back at the tobacco industry, when they were up in front of Congress, none of them got there and said, you know what, we were wrong all these years, and tobacco is harmful. And so, now in a sense, no one's going out there and speaking up in the industry yet, or with a big enough voice that it might be the plants and the low fat that's our biggest killer. But I think it's interesting because your vegan friends are at least adding meat. And if you look back at Schlenk back in 1946, he wrote a book on meat 3 times a day. And by simply adding meat back in your diet, even if you're not eliminating the plants, you're going to be healthier.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. Like, I think people miss this point. Like, it's not about being a pure carnivore. You don't have to do that, but like, you got to get your meat. The meat is the single best source of bioavailable nutrition for humans, beef especially. And I would challenge anyone who maybe disagrees with me on a couple of things here, with whether it's salmon or chicken. Try doing a single source meat only diet for 1 week. You take a month and say, okay, 1 week I'll do chicken, 1 week I'll do just salmon, 1 week I'll do beef, fatty beef, 1 week I'll do lean beef. Okay, and go to the gym and run the same exercises all 4 weeks. And you can even start off with like you can start off with the salmon first. Call it the first week. Is that, for me, salmon, as much as I love it, it does not fuel me for my workouts. I just cannot get there. When I eat beef, my strength goes up for that week. But try like one meat per week and see how you do on carnivore only. Don't add anything else, just as an experiment. And you will find that the fatty meats, the fattier beef, is going to give you the energy you need, the saturated fats, to just perform better in the gym. So I'm again, salmon. I'm a fan of. Actually, I invested in a salmon farming company now, because like I think that we need to get better at sustainable food, I invest in a steakhouse now as well. I'm just like I'm investing in what I believe is improving the healthcare. I invest in Tallow Grill, which is a organic, regeneratively raised beef. Well, they got beef and they got other. It's like it's a grass-fed, regenerative raised quick serve restaurant, right? And they're going to try and open up stores around the country. And I'm like all behind this movement. Like, can we get people to get off the unhealthy food and fast food and go to stores where it's like unprocessed? But the emphasis for me is regeneratively raised, whether it's fish, whether it's beef. You want the stuff. And this is why I often opt for lamb when I go to restaurants, because lamb is always grass-fed. Lamb doesn't eat corn. So if you have to choose between, you go to a restaurant that's got grain-fed beef and lamb, have the lamb. When you get home, in my home, I only eat grass-fed, grass-finished beef. That's all I eat. So yeah, as busy as I am, as much as I travel, I have to regulate what I eat. But I had this like 95% rule, where 95% of my diet is the best I can find, and the other 5%, well, good thing about humans is we're very adaptable. By the way, that is what the companies exploit. That is we are so adaptable, and we are such good survivors that these companies producing ultra processed foods, cheap calories, whatever, they thrive on the fact that our bodies can adapt to the crap that they give us, and we can survive because we're survivors. We are the apex predators on this planet because we can survive anything. We've all heard stories of people surviving 100 days lost in some part of the world or in a jungle or like whatever. We can survive. People stranded on mountains and ice and whatever. Humans are so good at survival. And that's our downfall, because we think that just because we can extract calories from anything, that it's optimal. It's just not.
Hey, if you're eating animal-based, you know how hard it is to find something real when you're on the go. That's why I like the Carnivore bar. It's made with just meat, fat, salt, and sometimes a little honey. No seed oils, no sugar, no preservatives. It's shelf-stable, travel-ready, and packs 400 calories of real nourishment. Think of it like modern-day pemmican, a survival food, reimagined with high-quality, regeneratively raised beef. Whether you're flying, hiking, road tripping, or just busy between meals, this bar helps you stay fueled until your next steak. It's simple, it's real, and it actually supports how humans are meant to eat. Meet my food.
I was interviewing Justin Pettit from Santa Carota Farms, a ranch in California that raises their beef also on carrots, which is a very unique in a regenerative farming environment. And so investing in local regenerative farming, along with the products that come out of that, seems to be something important to you in your mission.
Yes, it is, and I'm trying to do it in the right way is difficult. So right now I'm just experimenting. I'm investing in these things. I'm experimenting. One thing I'm experimenting with, I'm trying to is I noticed that Mark Zuckerberg is raising beef on his island in Hawaii, and he's feeding it just macadamia meal. Right now, macadamias are famous for being high in omega-3s. and I think he posted some pictures of the beef, and it comes out really fatty. I'm very, very curious to see how that meat tastes and how good it is for you. And my guess is, I think he knows something. My guess is that's probably the healthiest sort of grain-fed animal would be. It would be nut-fed animals. You can feed beef high omega-3 nuts, which, by the way, I did the calcs on this. It winds up being like $150,000 or $200,000 minimum per head of cattle just to feed it over its life, the macadamia nut. But it's probably going to taste absolutely delicious and be super healthy for you. And, billionaires can afford to live like that. But the point is, like, grain, I think everyone's realizing that grain fed is not the way to go.
Right. Tell me a little bit about what it was like sitting down with Dr. Berry, Dr. Baker, Sally Cade Norton, Judy Cho, and others, and listening and learning and sharing their magic with the world.
I mean, these guys are literally some of the, they're the legends and gods of carnivore, right? Sean Baker's fantastic. Spent a lot of time with him. We become friends, and now we hang out. I've been helping with other things, like helping him fund some research as well in carnivore diet. Same with Dr. Chafee. He's great as well. He's become a friend, and everyone's just amazing. Everyone in the community. Look, we curated who we put into this movie, and I'm not going to say why certain people are not in this movie, but you can reach your own conclusions. And sometimes it's just maybe we're scheduling, but there are certain people where we were like, we just don't want this person in the movie because we wanted people who really cared about other people and their health. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the carnivore sort of broader community that they're just trying to sell whatever, to their audiences. And so we were very thoughtful about that. And I can honestly say that the people I've just mentioned now, and yourself, and everyone in the animal movie they really just care about the health of their patients, and I think that is critical. And so for me, this again, because this is funded by me entirely, I didn't have any external third-party influence. There was no one trying to make me put anything into it that didn't need to be in there. There was no objective. I'm not selling you a supplement. I'm not doing any of that stuff, right? This was literally a labor of love.
Oh, why the name animal?
I think it's a dual meaning. We're talking about animals, and then I think we are animals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's for me that I think myself and Josh, the director, and Kevin, my co-producer, I think we all have a different interpretation of it, but we love the name because for me that's what it speaks to. It's like we're animals,
and species specific is a high animal based diet and probably a low plant based diet.
I mean, you look at the data around this, right? And Dr. Sayers put it very well in the movie. It's like, our short intestine goes longer and our long intestine goes shorter. And, we don't have an appendix anymore, or we have an appendix where the cecum used to be. So, it's very obvious that, look, one of the things which I think appeals to me when I look at all the data in aggregate is that out of the top, I think it was the top 15 animals in the animal kingdom, we're number 7 on the list in terms of acidity in our stomach, right? So we have very, very strong stomach acids. There is no herbivore within like 10 spots of us. The first herbivore or even omnivore comes in at like 15 or something. So we and all the animals with stronger stomach acid than us are meant to be meat eaters. And the one thing which is interesting is that I think we start off being scavengers. And I'll tell you why. Like, our stomach acid is very similar to a vulture or hyena, mm-hmm. and they need strong stomach acids to be able to kill the bacteria in the when they pick up a dead animal or whatever else. Humans are no different. If a lion killed a wildebeest or whatever back in Africa back in the days, and you come across the carcass and you want to eat the carcass, you got to have the stomach acids to kill some of the bacteria that's going to be sitting around there. And I think maybe our ancestors were a lot more of the scavengers on the meat side, and then over the course of evolution, we started learning how to get tools and catching our own meat and killing our own animals and so on and so forth. So there's that. But the stomach acid thing is the one that sticks out for me the most. There's so many angles for debate and discussion on
I talk a lot about Pottinger's cats, and Pottinger did a study on cats fed cooked meat, raw meat, pasteurized milk, or raw milk, and the cats and their subsequent generation did best on raw milk and meat. And what are your thoughts on have you done raw meat much? Do you think ultimately, because I think even raw fish, raw beef is really the best things to eat.
Absolutely. I'm off to Japan next week, and I'm going to be eating a lot of raw fish. And it's fantastic. And I'm a big fan of the raw dairy, raw kefir in particular. I think is excellent. We should be having a lot more of that in our diet. I'll tell you a funny story. I actually became lactose intolerant for a long period of time, and in this sort of Northern California phase I was in. I mean, I would fly in South Africa drinking milk, but then I became lactose intolerant, and when I started having raw dairy, somehow it rebuilt the enzymes in my gut. And initially I was like, oh my gosh, I hope this works, because I had read about it, and I started having basically about a liter of kefir every single day for like months. Now I could even eat dairy. I was in France last week. I was having cheese. I have no problem eating, and I actually stick to the raw cheeses and the hard cheeses. But I have no problem with cheeses. I have no problem with milk. But again, I avoid milk because the moment you pasteurize the milk, you change you change the lactose and the carbohydrates.
You damage the molecules both when you cook meat and cook animals. You pasteurize milk, but the plants, if you think about it, we probably rarely consumed raw stems and leaves and roots. We processed them, we fermented them, and for the longest time there was no fresh fruits and vegetables around. They were canned, they were preserved, they were fermented. That made them less toxic
Yes.
for us.
Yeah, and Dr. Sean Amaro talks about this a lot. How good kimchi is for the guts, and how these, so I think the ability for us to ferment and store these things for periods of time, it kills the toxins, or at least lessens it. And again, even Sally Norton will tell you, like, cooking the spinach will reduce the oxalate content by 90%. Great. So you should do that. Eating raw spinach is nuts. If you really want to have spinach, cook it. Raw spinach, I wouldn't I don't touch this stuff. I don't even, the only thing I eat that is considered a vegetable, I think right now, is romaine lettuce, and that's because when I'm traveling and I get a lettuce wrap burger. Like, that's kind of my go-to. To just and pretty much any burger. Like, I was in the airport the other day in I was in France, in the airport in France, and like, there's nothing to eat. Oh, sorry, it was Germany. It was Frankfurt. Sorry, it was Frankfurt. There was literally nothing I could eat there. And I went to Burger King and I ordered, and they don't even allow, by the way, they didn't allow me to order a lettuce wrap. It was like, there was no way to make it bun free. So I wound up ordering a triple or and I fit the bun off and I just ate the patties there. Because, like, it's meat, right? And it's 100% meat. So that's good.
Adaptability.
Absolutely.
That was the big word here. Any single revelations, interviews during the filming that you like just either shocked you or is like, wow, that's the most important thing we've learned here?
That's a good question. I've watched it so many times.
Or was it all? I mean, ultimately, you've been living it in a sense, and so you kind of know this. Maybe from some people who've watched it. Have you heard anything that, like, wow, crazy?
You know what is interesting is a comment that Dr. Rob Sowers made to me. It was on set, but it wasn't in front of the camera. And I think about it now. I wish I recaptured it. But I was discussing gut bacteria with him, and he made the point that the bacteria you feed is the one that stays in your gut. So so here's an example. If you're a vegan for 10 years, you don't have the ability to digest meat. And I actually have a friend, by the way, who last week convinced him to eat some meat. And he hasn't eaten meat in at least 10 years. And he felt sick afterwards, right? So he was like, and then the next day I'm like, okay, just do it again. And he felt a little better. And then the third day was like, because we spent a week together, he was like, oh, this is good. I can actually digest it now. And the point was that if you only feed the bacteria that eats plants, you're not going to have meat-eating bacteria in your gut. Conversely, if you, like me, just eat meat right now, if I'm actually worried if I ever had like a plant-based meal, I'd feel horrible, right? Because like I don't have that bacteria anymore, and I've stopped taking probiotics. Like I think it's a big doesn't work. And this is from a guy, I probably took hundreds of probiotics trying to fix up my gut. Like literally, I spent so much money on supplements and probiotics over the years trying to fix my gut. I don't take anything right now. I actually the one thing I did start recently was I started taking a spore biotic to test it out. It's actually a mega spore biotic. It's been working pretty well. But generally, I don't think that you need to take probiotics. You just need to feed the bacteria that is for the gut, for your diet, right? So your body adapts to whatever diet you have. Now, if you're like omnivorous, you eat everything, you're going to have a little bit of everything in your gut. And that's when you have this like gut dysbiosis eventually, which is what I had.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think the microbiome, the bacteria, yeast, and viruses are everywhere, and they happen to be in our gut also.
Yes.
And the food we eat generally feeds them, and they proliferate. And I think that there are good bacteria, bad bacteria, but they switch sides all the time.
Exactly.
And I would say in general, the truth about meat, I think, and carnivores eat fatty meat. Fat suppresses the microbes, keeps them at bay, and allows your body to kind of handle those miserable.
Well, actually, I have homemade bone broth, and if you're hungry, you have this bone broth. It's got a layer of fat on it. You melt it down. And it's amazing. You can go hours without eating. You can go on a bone broth diet. You can get some calories from that as well. But it really suppresses the appetite hormones.
What was the most difficult part of doing the documentary, making the movie?
Look, I think for me, this was a learning experience. It's my first movie. I'm if this is successful, I might do another one. Been thinking about it, but for me, look, this was an experiment. Can we put out something that'll appeal to a community of people who have been waiting for the content in a condensed form? It's like just 83 minutes long, where they can share it with their friends. They can take friends who don't understand the carnivore lifestyle to a movie theater and sit down and say, hey, this is something you should look and watch. And again, I've tested this out with friends of mine, and they've essentially, I know it works. I know that's the point. I know it works. And even if you're in a city anywhere, in the country, and like this, we have theaters now in New York, LA, Vegas, Austin, and maybe Houston, Dallas, by the time we actually go live on 20th of June. So it'll be somewhere. It'll obviously be on, all the digital platforms, Amazon, Apple, Fandango at home, whatever. But if it's not there, you just go to the animal.movie /how to watch, and you can tell us where you are, which city you're in. And if you're going to help get the community there, we can have a showing at a theater there for you. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do is get the carnivore community behind this, because all I'm trying to do is put the truth out there and let people try for themselves. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, go back to your ultra processed diet, whatever. Like you can take a horse to water, you can't make a drink. And all I can say is I've witnessed this change my life and the lives of people around me, and it's unbelievable. And it actually feels almost, when I tell people like you only eat meat, they're like shocked. Like, where do you get the first question I get is, where do you get your fiber from? And I'm like, that's kind of a brainwashed situation, right? People have been brainwashed to believe you need fiber. And fiber doesn't work for me. So what am I expected to do?
What can we all do to help support this film? Where do we go to help launch it and expose it to more of our brothers and sisters in need of healing?
Thank you. I think go to to promote it, obviously. So animal.movie is the website. So you can sign up, put your email address in there, get notified when the release is out. Watch it in entirety. Please rate it. When you go to Apple, when you buy it and you download it and you watch it, the whole thing, and then you give it like a 5-star rating, that's good for us. It gets into the algorithm and people start learning about it. Same on YouTube, and with the trailers, share trailers with friends. We have the trailer out now, the teaser trailer. There'll be another one soon as well. But just spread the word. I mean, I think the gift of the community is like, this is something which you can use to explain your worldview to people who don't quite understand why you believe what you do believe. And I selfishly made it for myself as well. I made this movie to show my friends who think I was crazy to be on an all meat diet, because I would go to a restaurant and they would be ordering whatever, and I'm like, just give me the steak. And the waiter's like, yeah, would you like fries? It's like nothing, just a steak. Just a steak? Yeah, we add some butter on top. Like that, that was, and my friends would think of me as like absolutely nuts. And I'm pretty sure I'm not nuts.
Well, maybe you are, and that's the beauty of it, because lions are truly a small percentage of the animal kingdom, but they are still the most powerful. They're the most respected, honored around the globe, and we all want to be a lion. And I always say, you are what you eat, and lions eat meat, and sheep eat grass, or maybe lions eat sheep, and sheep eat grass, and so that's really our drive in here. Um, what you're sharing is what I think all of us and the people you've interviewed for this movie, and sharing with our brothers and sisters, to really, we're reclaiming our ancestral health, if you think about it, right? And tell me a little bit mentally, how has it made you feel? Has it helped mentally and not just physically?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely an ADHD type of guy, So it's changed my. Part of this has actually changed the way I think about food and things I put in my diet. I'm actually a coffee addict. I mean, I really was like deep into coffee, and Anthony Chaffee changed my mind on that. I mean, he started explaining it's like a neurotoxin and whatever else, and then I started digging into the research around it and how it affects cortisol and weight gain and whatever else. And coffee is just borrowing your energy from the second half of the day. If you think about it, all it's doing is it's stealing 2 or 3 hours from the later part of the day and bring it into your morning when you have your morning coffee. And then the later part of the day, you're crashing, and now you have to have another coffee. So now you're digging into your sleep, and it's an endless cycle. And so I feel great on Carnivore. I feel even better now when I'm cutting out things. I think we all should experiment to see what works for us. Like I do have some berries, not every day, but and I think that it kind of helps me get through the diet. It doesn't affect me negatively. It's fine. But there's definitely depending on what the goals are, there's a way of being very, very strict, very, very strict on Carnivore, or finding a way that just melds into your lifestyle. But for the most part, like if 95% of the nutrition you're getting in is meat, I think you can, like some carnivore doctors, even Rob Sywers, and he has a glass of wine with me when we had a steakhouse and we're going to be drinking wine. And that, I think it's okay. I think some people get onto the carnivore train and they become too inflexible and then they get off it. And I think it's not about that. You got to modulate it.
Yeah, I'm off alcohol, coffee, tea, and cigars, but I do enjoy them sometimes.
Exactly.
And I will even eat a French fry, cookie, cake, or ice cream sometimes.
Exactly.
But I've been off coffee now for 2 years. I'm turning 70 early next year. I've never felt better. Nearly 15 years.
You look great.
and you look amazing. But what you're sharing in this movie, and we're here together to help share the message, because a doc, I went into medicine to help people.
Yeah.
And people like yourself are touching and healing more people than 99% of the doctors that work in their practice for 20 years, see patients 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And that's the real change here. So I appreciate you so much, Vinny. Anything else you wanted to share before we go?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. My doctor friends tell me this. When they go to medical school, they get a 3-month course on nutrition.
And it's wrong.
It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's FDA stuff. When we have these debates about healthcare, they know and they admit that basically, look, the pharmaceutical big pharma is educating these doctors on what they should prescribe to patients, and not dealing with the root cause of health problems. And so I think we're in a very, very weird state right now. And I think that if people just experiment with themselves, try Carnivore, and see the results, you don't have to convince anyone. We have a 30-day Carnivore challenge on our website. Go and try that out. And after 30 days, if you don't feel better, go back to your previous diet. But if you feel great, ask yourself, do you really want to go back to that?
Do you have any other hacks for health that you tap into besides carnivore?
I do sauna 3 times a week. I do gym. I've been doing a lot of gym, and I realized that cutting down to about 3 days a week is probably optimal for recovery. So I think some people overdo it in the gym. So 3 days a week of weights, 3 days a week of like either high intensity or sort of low intensity steady state is kind of optimal for me. And I'm 46 now, so that's just where I need to be. When I was young, I could train 12 days in a row, no problem. But where I am now, I'm like 3 and 3 is pretty good. I think plan your meals in advance. Like a lot of people go through life not knowing what they're going to eat the next day. I mean, like we live in we're very blessed to have the society we have right now where food is available for us and we can plan ahead. Like, I mean, our ancestors were just hoping they'd see a gazelle the next day, right? We can plan. So if you've got the ability to plan and do your meal prep, then do that. So I think when you don't have a plan, that's when you fail because you're like, oh, I don't know what I can eat right now. Then you just fall off the wagon.
Yeah. And the simplicity of carnivore is, gee, I'm gonna eat steak again or burger again.
I got a great hack for that actually. When you go to a steakhouse, order the biggest steak you can find. Order the tomahawk, whatever, biggest steak you can afford, whatever, and then just take home what you don't eat.
That's my next day snack, traveling no matter what.
Exactly. Or steak and eggs for breakfast if you want. Like, I skip breakfast. I do 2 meals a day, but steak and eggs for breakfast. And I eat lots of biltong, being South African. So actually, I have a packet here. I found this really good brand. Please don't buy it because they keep selling out. Cut and Cured Company. It's grass-fed, grass-finished beef. It's it's really fantastic. Like eat biltong, and there's also biltong providers out there, but be careful of the sugars, right? So some of these companies, they don't make it, but get like real South African biltong. Don't eat American jerky. American jerky is not good. It's for the most part.
Sugary. And the one thing that I do the most is I make ribeye pretty much every day. Wherever I go out, I buy the biggest ribeye, and then I eat what I eat. I slice it up. I take it home. I travel with it. Yeah. It stays nice. It puts salt on it.
Exactly.
Salt is antimicrobial.
Yeah.
Cool. Rolls in butter.
Another good thing, another good little hack. Travel, when you go through airports, carry peeled eggs. Do not buy the eggs at the airport. First of all, they're going to be junky, cheap, crap eggs because you can obviously get them there. But if you have a little pack of you boil your own eggs at home, good quality, pasture raised eggs, and some olive oil and some salt and whatever in a bowl. And it's a good snack because one of the biggest problems I have is like airports. When I go to airports, airport food is terrible.
Yeah. And that's what the preparation is so easy and you become so inspired to do it. And I don't know if you've done any fasting. What have you found about fasting and all this?
I'm a huge fan of fasting. So I do intermittent fasting, somewhere between 16 to 18 hours a day. That's my current protocol. I've done a 44-hour fast, like water only. I need to do more, and I've actually, funny enough, I was watching some YouTube videos last night about exactly the right protocols for fasting.
Well, I want a quick. We're finishing up here.
Sure.
And Justin Pettit from Santa Clarota Farms. Come on in and meet Vinny. And he brought some amazing meat that we're sharing here today. And it's
being left out right now.
Who's that? Sirloin?
Oh man, we throw it on the barbecue. You brought it in. It's so amazing, and we'll send you home with some for a snack later.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'd love to send Vinny some too, or jump on a call with Vinny if he ever has a chance.
I would love to.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
We're and that's the beauty of what you're doing with animal, and ultimately, media, social media, and the movies we're all driven towards, and we're all scrolling through something to watch, and you throw Rob Sywis, Anthony Chafee, Sean Baker, Judy Cho, Sally K. Norton,
Eddie.
fine. And people are excited, interested to watch it and learn. So really look forward to. I saw the movie already. I'm working to get out to LA for the
So the red carpet premiere. I'd love to have you over. That'd be amazing.
I'd love to. Are you going to be in LA too?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'll be there also. So I look forward to it. Again, spreading the word, health and wellness. And if you're making another movie, I'd love to participate and keep sharing for more people.
Would love it. Thank you so much.
All right, Vinny.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. I will catch you soon.
All right, man.
Well, thanks, guys.